Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. On today's video, I'm going to be cooking up some old school Texas style ribs. Stay tuned. All right, so I'm starting with 2 racks of spare ribs, and these are full spares. As you can see, we've got some trimming to do. Now, I gotta tell you, in the old days, none of this went to waste. In fact, it's really hard to find rib tips in a lot of barbecue joints throughout Texas. So I'm gonna be smoking the rib tips as well, but that's not what this cook is about. But I don't want to waste all this perfectly good meat. So I'm just gonna trim the edge here. I'm gonna round this off real quick. All right, that looks good right there. Let me trim up the other one. Now, trimming these ribs is 100% optional, okay? You don't have to do it. You can actually smoke the entire rack as is, just like this, but I don't like all this loose hanging meat on my ribs, so I like to round them off and trim some of the excess. Now, I do like to remove the skirt from the rack of ribs. Now, as far as the membrane, there's a big debate going on right now whether you should leave it on or take it off. I got to tell you, I have literally smoked thousands of ribs and I never once removed this membrane. I am a firm believer that this membrane helps keep the ribs nice and moist by not allowing the moisture to escape from the bottom of the rack. Now, anytime that I'm cooking, I like to keep my right hand clean and my left hand, that's what touches the meat. So let's mix up our rub. I've got 4 tablespoons of 16 mesh black pepper, 4 tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of mustard powder, and 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika. All right, let me shake up this rub right here. All right, so I've got our rub mixed up in the shaker bottle right here. I'm gonna go ahead and season these ribs, and I am not gonna be using any binder whatsoever. Now, while I season these ribs, I do wanna talk about what an old school Texas style rib is. Now, back in the day, spare ribs were all about the savoriness of the spare rib itself, along with the smoke. Today's rib, a lot of your barbecue joints are using a really heavy glaze to finish off the ribs, and that's something that we are not going to be doing on this video. Again, we're going to be doing this the old school Texas way, a nice, savory, smoky rib. So in December of 2022, Daniel Vaughn with Texas Monthly wrote up a story of what happened with the Texas savory rib. You know, when did it go from a savory, smoky rib to a heavily glazed or sauced rib? And he was eating at a barbecue joint in Texas. I believe it's called Mickelwait's. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. But the gentleman that runs that place pretty much gave him the recipe on what the rub was and how the old school Texas style ribs are cooked. So I came up with my own version of the savory rub. You can come up with your rub as well. Just make it nice and savory. And these ribs are going to be about the savoriness and not so much the sauce itself. All right, so I've got the ribs all seasoned up. Let's head outside and fire up the pit. All right, let's light up our Bison Red Dog offset smoker. Now for this cook, I am going to be using Gourmet Wood Products Texas Post Oak. You can pick up a box or 2 at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Check them out. And as always, I am going to be using my grill gun from Grill Blazer. This thing has got some mileage on it. Quit wasting your money on charcoal and get yourself one of these grill guns from Grill Blazer. Check them out at the link below. So here we go. All right, so I've got our wood splits going. I'm gonna let the smoker warm up to 250 degrees and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I've got the smoker running at 250 degrees. Let's go ahead and load up our ribs. All right, here's rack number 1. And I gotta tell you, these ribs smell absolutely amazing already. Just that rub, that seasoning alone smells so good. Here's our second rack. And I also have all of our rib tips and trim Gonna throw this in the smoker as well. Those are excellent Pitmaster snacks. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut the door. I'm gonna smoke these ribs at 250 degrees for 2 hours, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so the ribs are smoking, and I do want to thank today's video sponsor, Vevor, and this is a countertop ice maker. This ice maker right here will make 37 pounds of ice in 24 hours, and the only problem I have is not getting this thing sooner. So we used to have a travel trailer, and this ice maker would have been perfect for camping. So we've had this ice maker for about a month and a half now, and my family absolutely loves it. So one of my favorite things about this Vevor ice maker is that you don't have to run a water line to it. Now you do have that option to run a water line on the back, but you can also fill it up with water on the front right here. Now this will hold about a gallon of water. Just simply fill it up and it starts making ice. So I know a lot of people are familiar with Sonic Ice. Now this is just like Sonic Ice, but a little bit firmer, which means it's gonna keep your beverages colder longer. Now one of the things that I absolutely love about this ice maker is that it's constantly making ice, which means if I grab a few scoops of ice, it'll start replenishing that ice immediately. So this ice maker does have a couple of sensors. It's going to let you know when you're running low on water, and also when this bucket of ice is completely full. So if you're having some ice cold soda or an adult beverage, this Vevor countertop ice maker is a must-have. Make sure you guys check out this ice maker from Vevor in the description down below, and thank them for sponsoring today's video. Alright, so the ribs are almost ready to be wrapped, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a simple glaze to use when you wrap your ribs. So I've got 1.5 cups of water right here. I'm going to bring that to a boil. To the 1.5 cups of water, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sugar. So all we're making right here is a simple syrup. Okay, we're going to bring this to a boil. Let it get nice and thick. Alright, so it's been about 4 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the heat. I'm going to let this sit and cool down for a minute. Alright, so I've got my homemade barbecue sauce here, and I got the bottle about 70% filled. The other 30%, I'm going to fill it up with a simple syrup we just made. Just like that. Cover up your bottle and give it a good shake. So I make my own barbecue sauce, and I am working on getting it bottled, but for now, just use your favorite barbecue sauce and thin it down with some simple syrup. All right, let's head outside and wrap our ribs. Look at that, bark is absolutely beautiful. Now I know some of you guys might be asking, wait a minute, I thought you said no sauce. Well, this is a glaze that I'm going to be using when we wrap the ribs, but we will not be finishing up the ribs with a sauce. So these ribs will not be saucy once they're completely done. All right, let's wrap it up. And back inside the smoker they go. So I'm gonna let these ribs cook for 1 hour and 15 minutes at 250 degrees, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so 1 hour and 15 minutes have passed since we wrapped our ribs. Total cook time 3 hours and 45 minutes. Let's go ahead and unwrap these ribs. So I know some of you guys are wondering if these ribs are going to be saucy or not. Trust me, they will not be saucy when they're done. Check out that beautiful color on these ribs right there. Again, these ribs are not saucy whatsoever. So I'm going to unwrap the second rack. All right, so I'm going to let the ribs cook unwrapped for 10 minutes, and I'll see you guys inside. All right, so the ribs are ready, and the total cook time was right at 4 hours. And check out this amazing color. I gotta tell you, these ribs picked up a ton of flavor from that glaze that we used and those savory seasonings that I added earlier in the cook. So let's go ahead and slice into these ribs. I like to flip them upside down because I can see the bones a little bit better on this side. Man, they are slicing nice and tender. Again, these are not competition style ribs where the sauce is just flowing all over them. And that's really all you taste. I am not a big sauce fan, so I know these ribs are going to be absolutely amazing. All right, let's take a look at these ribs right here. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that surface. You can see the rubs right there. Not saucy once again. Beautiful looking smoke ring right there. Let's give these a try. All right, let's give these ribs a try. Man, I am excited. The aroma, super smoky aroma. I know this is gonna be good. Here we go. Oh my goodness. So full of flavor. Again, that good rib flavor, that smoky flavor is not being covered up by a sauce. This is absolutely amazing. I wish you guys were here to taste this. So good. I gotta tell you guys, if you guys have never tried this old school way of cooking ribs, again, not covering the ribs with a ton of sauce, you have got to give them a try. And if you don't have an offset smoker, a pellet smoker is gonna work just fine. Just crank up your temperature a little bit, probably 265, and you're gonna end up with an amazing tasting rib as well. I'm also gonna be leaving a link to the story that Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly wrote down inside the description box. Make sure you guys check that out. Now, when they wrap the ribs, they actually use a corn syrup, mustard, and some barbecue sauce as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this old school Texas style rib video. If this is your first time to my channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. See ya.